Henry had a big part in it, and people were like screaming when Henry would appear, and we went out on a publicity tour, and it was a little bit like we were a boy band,
Happy Days wasn't just a beloved sitcom. It was a cultural sensation that revealed the complexities of television stardom. Today we'll explore the intricate behind-the-scenes dynamics of the show, which captured the hearts of audiences in the 1970s. We'll explore the critical rule that shaped the show and its impact on the cast and production, especially the number one rule Ron Howard was forced to follow: the tension behind the scenes. Over its decade-long run, Happy Days evolved from a nostalgic look at 1950s America into a significant cultural touchstone. Audiences tuned in not only for the charming Cunningham family and the lighthearted antics of Richie and Joni, but also for Fonzie, the greaser with a magnetic presence. Although Fonzie often stole the spotlight, Ron Howard, who portrayed Richie Cunningham, faced a starkly different reality behind the scenes. He experienced tension from shifting priorities among network executives, particularly as they began to focus on Henry Winkler's character. Howard later expressed that he felt disrespected by decision-makers, even threatening to leave the show when producers considered renaming it Fonzie's Happy Days. This complicated dynamic created the necessity for a non-negotiable rule on set, but more on that in a minute. The rise of Happy Days. When Happy Days premiered in 1974, Ron Howard was already a familiar face to American audiences. Having grown up as Opie Taylor on The Andy Griffith Show, he was viewed as the quintessential all-American boy, earnest, clean-cut, and humble. As Richie Cunningham, Howard became the emotional anchor of Happy Days, the everyman through whose eyes audiences experienced life in the 1950s in Milwaukee. But television has a way of rewriting its own hierarchy. Enter Arthur Fonzie Fonzarelli, played of course by Henry Winkler, whose cool, rebellious energy quickly captured the nation's attention. Originally written as a minor supporting character, the leather-jacketed mechanic became a cultural phenomenon almost overnight. Viewers adored his catchphrases, his motorcycle, and his effortless charm. The network took notice too. As Happy Days soared in ratings, executives saw an opportunity to capitalize on Winkler's newfound stardom. The balance of the show began to tilt. Scripts that once centered on Richie and his friends increasingly revolved around Fonzie's escapades. Winkler's role grew episode by episode, and soon the sidekick had become the show's centerpiece. Ron Howard, by contrast, found himself sidelined. While he was respected by his fellow castmates and crew, the attention from ABC executives and the press shifted dramatically. Behind the scenes, Howard was still the same professional actor he'd always been, on time, polite, and collaborative, but it became clear that his star power within the show's creative structure was waning. Quote, "It wasn't Henry's fault," Howard later reflected in interviews. "He couldn't have been more gracious. The problem was how people outside the cast reacted. I was treated differently, less respectful. It was humiliating." Howard's frustration reached a boiling point when ABC executives floated an idea that nearly drove him to walk off the show entirely, renaming it Fonzie's Happy Days. That single proposal symbolized everything that was going wrong for him. The sense that the work he helped build was being reshaped by others for commercial appeal. The rule that changed everything.
I enjoy the show. I really love the people on the show. And Happy Days has given me a lot. So if I can find a way to do that, continue doing Happy Days and still grow away from the show, getting to produce things like Leo and Laurie, or direct things, why then I think I would try to stay.
That near mutiny led to the one unbreakable rule that Ron Howard would insist upon for the rest of his tenure on Happy Days. Richie Cunningham would never be made to look foolish just to make Fonzie look cool. Howard didn't have the kind of contractual power that some stars did, but he had integrity and leverage. By that point, he had earned deep respect from the show's creator, Garry Marshall, and the rest of the creative team. When Howard voiced his frustration, Marshall took it seriously. Quote, "Ron was the heart of the show," Marshall later said. "We couldn't lose him." The no embarrassment rule was simple but profound. While Winkler's Fonzie could still be the hero, Richie could not be diminished or humiliated for comic effect. No jokes at his expense, no storylines where he was the butt of the joke while Fonzie swooped in to save the day. Richie could make mistakes, but he would always remain a grounded, relatable figure, the moral compass of the show. In many ways, the rule helped maintain Happy Days' tone. Without it, the show might have slipped entirely into caricature, a Fonzie-driven sitcom that lost its emotional anchor. Instead, Richie and Fonzie became a kind of yin and yang, one representing sincerity and heart, the other charisma and rebellion. The contrast worked. It gave the show balance and longevity, allowing both characters to thrive without undercutting each other. And to his credit, Henry Winkler fully supported the arrangement. Winkler, who has spoken openly about his admiration for Howard, later recalled, quote, "I never wanted to overshadow Ron. He was the reason I had space to find Fonzie. We respected each other completely." The rule may have started as a boundary born of frustration, but it ultimately became a creative principle. It preserved the dignity of the characters and set a standard for fairness on set, something rare in Hollywood ensembles where fame can upend dynamics overnight. Tension, loyalty, and the almost exit.
I think my oldest daughter, Bryce Dallas Howard, was quoted as saying she had never seen an episode of Happy Days. I think she's seen snippets and bits, but I'm not sure she's ever bothered to sit down and watch an entire episode. That may be the case for most of my kids.
As Happy Days climbed the ratings charts, the tension behind the scenes built. For Ron, who had entered adulthood in front of America's eyes, the fame and fortune that came with the show were not enough to offset his growing disillusionment. The breaking point came during discussions about rebranding the show. Network executives, charmed by Winkler's star power, suggested renaming the series Fonzie's Happy Days. It was a decision that would have rewritten history, erasing Howard's position as the show's lead. Howard, by then in his early 20s, didn't mince words. He told producers and the network if they went through with the title change, he'd walk. According to interviews, he was fully prepared to quit, even if it meant abandoning one of television's biggest hits. Quote, "That was the moment," he told Entertainment Tonight. "If they changed the title, I was gone." It wasn't an idle threat either. Howard had already begun dreaming of life beyond acting, of directing, storytelling, and shaping the kinds of narratives he couldn't control as a performer. To him, staying under conditions that compromised his integrity would have meant losing himself completely. From actor to auteur, how the rule shaped his future. The experience on Happy Days did more than protect Ron Howard's dignity. It defined his future as a filmmaker. The no humiliation rule became a guiding principle in how he approached storytelling, both as a director and collaborator. This ethos not only influenced his work, but also inspired those around him to cultivate a creative environment where everyone felt valued regardless of their role. In later interviews, he reflected that his years on Happy Days taught him invaluable lessons about leadership, empathy, and artistic balance. He learned that even in entertainment, an industry driven by egos, mutual respect was the only sustainable foundation for creativity. This mindset is crucial in a landscape where competition is fierce and the pressure to succeed can lead to not just creative differences, but personal conflicts as well. He developed a keen sensitivity to the experiences of others, recognizing that behind every performance is a vulnerable human being. When Howard transitioned to directing, first with Grand Theft Auto in 1977, and later with Splash, Cocoon, and Apollo 13, those lessons carried through. On his sets, actors often spoke of an atmosphere of kindness and trust. Tom Hanks, who worked with Howard multiple times, once said that Ron's calm leadership, quote, "comes from understanding what it feels like to be disregarded." The dynamic not only fostered creativity, but strengthened collaborative bonds, enabling the cast and crew to do their best work without fear of judgment. In the long run, his steadfast belief in the value of empathy has influenced a wider movement in the industry. Upcoming filmmakers and established artists alike often cite his work and leadership style as a model for creating a more humane and collaborative environment. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite Ron Howard movie? Let us know in the comment section below.